Alright, there's that. Okay. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, everybody. So let's get started. Where's the button? Alright, everybody, what's happening? It's your boy Hardcorn, and we're back today with some more action time. And then today we've got a very special event today. Anniversary is just out finishing up. All the events have been squared away, farmed up, cleaned up for the most part. So we're going to do something that's been pretty overdue for a long time. We're going to sit down and go rank some supporters. We're going to make our fancy smancy tier list. We're going to actually go talk about what makes a good supporter, makes a bad supporter. And we've got to effectively go through, I have a list that I've compiled of about, I'd say, 55 supporters that we're going to go. It's about 50 to 55 supporters that we're going to go over that are essentially the core, the core set of supporters that everybody uses for the most part in the game. Because there are 100, at this moment there is 187 supporters in the game. And when I was rounding down the list to check out about what are we going to actually like, what supporters do I use, what supporters do other people use, it came down to about the fact that, well, we only use about 65 to 70 of them. And even then, only about 50 actually get used for the most part. A lot of them are just way too niche or just downright terrible. So, let me find the sound thing. Let's get started with talking about some of these supporters. Also, before we'll talk about the supporters, then we gotta go do the bonus stage with Nanasemai. I forgot to do that last week. So we'll get that in there, make it a stage highlight. Thanks, Grandma. I have 172 supporters, which is about most of them in the game. Most of them ones that are limited are either too old, that I didn't have the resources to get, or limited ones that I just honestly didn't care about. But some of them I understand their importance. So we're going to start off with... We're not going to go in order of every single 1 through 187. That's going to take way too long, and honestly, it's pointless. Because some of them are just... A lot of these supporters are redundant, so let's start off with the ones we use the most. We'll start off with number 2, Miss Sonata Homra. Alright. Homra herself is one of the most versatile and less demanding supporters in the entire game. She's an SR. You are bound to get like multiple copies of this whenever you're trying to roll for a limited banner or on a new banner itself for a character. This is a very more or less less demanding supporter because every character can use this. It's in a color that gives tons and tons of damage in the first place, whether that's for critical boosting or just high base damage. The supporter used to have a caveat of you take 20% more damage, but you deal 30% more damage to enemies. They changed that a long time ago, and frankly, I wish they would bring something like this back, where they had the, you have a negative ability to deal much more damage, because like for the most part, they just made supporters, they're just flat damage through, flat damage boosts throughout time. This is it gets to 15, starts at 15 at 1.5, goes to 30. You can slot this on any character, and you can just do anything with her. Very good supporter in any sort of cause. It's great filler too. It's just more damage. Alright. Next up, we have Mileage Shisui. This is one of the oldest supporters in the game and still one of the most important in the first place. Because she gets a revive, which frankly, if you're getting your ass handed to you that hard, you're not going to, and you need to use the revive, you need to rethink your strategy in the first place. Because it restores 25% of your maximum HP, maxes out at 50, and then reduces 35-70 for 12 seconds. It's nice for if you're getting a really, just trying to survive a fight. The most important part about it also is that it gives invincibility for 16 seconds and removes the debuff. If you're invulnerable, invulnerability has always been really useful in Arena. This still remains one of the most important supporters to have in the arena itself because of invincibility. Like, if you can wait out the clock as long as you can, that's the most important part. And if you're I think it's like 400 or 500,000 gold, you can change the attributes to fit in whatever build you want to. Anybody can use this, and it's done that way on purpose. So it's a purely defensive option. It has nothing in terms of attack, but except for being able to just sit there and be unopposed in your entire attack string for 16 seconds. That's it. Shisui is very good. In fact, it's like, before they added it in the Founding 3, this was like the go-to mileage supporter, or the thing you wanted to get when you had mileage built up. 10,000 mileage is still very steep. I think I've only ever gotten a couple copies of this myself, and I've been playing for a very long time. But even then, it's like after this point, I just have I just go get a Founding 3 copies because it's just a much better choice. All right, next up is Fumamane. Good old Miss Fumamane, she's a real nice gal. She's got the booty, she's got the robot hand, but most importantly, she's one of the game's oldest supporters and is specifically for damage ratios. It goes from 25 to 50% if you max it out, and is a staple for fighting LWS squad and anything hard in the tower that is specifically has machines. It's always been just specifically more damage. More damage is always the effectively the answer you want to go to in regards to like just about anything in the game. I mean, there's nothing exactly wrong with that either, because if you're doing more damage to an enemy, you don't have to worry about getting hurt or anything like that, and it makes the battle end faster, and you can farm more efficiently. Just hit harder and it becomes more efficient. It's great. But hello everybody, thanks for coming by. We're going over our candidates for who's going to be on the tier list. I don't know why the tier list website also has a mess up when it tries to upload images. I have I have 55 supporters on the list that we're going to go over, but only 50 on there. And honestly, like five of them you could this list of 50 you could probably like mix and match whatever you need to. But let's keep moving. What is it? Her passive is like, it's always been met best because it requires you to be attacked itself, and then it deals damage upon your person. Every third attack, it deals additional damage and knocks back enemies. I mean, that's like, it's okay at best. It's usually used for the funny meme strategy for Spinel, where you use her icy cocoon or whatever it's called, and her limited supporter in the main, and you just do passive damage to the enemy. It's really easy for just like crushing up enemies and getting shit done. But you mostly take this for the machine damage ratio. Next up is everybody's favorite purple ninja next to Asagi, Tekken Kaoru. This lady has one of the most favorited supporters of the entire game ever since launch day. Because who doesn't love doing 48% more critical hit damage? Even at 1.5, this supporter is absolutely crazy. It has a really fast cooldown on its skill. You do 900 something damage on it's like 950 damage on burst, and then it has a secondary attack that does a second hit that does as much damage as this. So it's just great for nuking. She's whenever you start this game in the first place, you have a choice of picking up 3 supporters, which is Kaoru, Amane, and Major. Everybody picks Kaoru because everybody wants to crit. It's a very good supporter regardless of level, and the other 2 are just specifically focused on one aspect. It remains very flexible to this day, and it's just honestly really nice. Even in VR, it still has a home, because with low level VR, if you have critical investment in some sort of fashion, Tekken Kaoru will still come in there and nuke for millions of damage. It's not a problem for her. Still one of the most versatile and important supporters in the game. Very good. Now here's a supporter that doesn't get a lot of talk from most people. We got Hoshino Mitsuki. Hoshino over here is a very specific supporter that requires cooldown supporter skills by 10%, and then it knocks up by enemies. This is one of the few supporters in the game that has a cooldown reduction for supporters. This, when it maxes at 20%, it also applies to her own supporter itself. So this thing can get down to 20-something seconds very easily. For what you usually use the support, the supporter traditionally gets used for time attack because it's an extremely fast cooldown, hard-hitting skill that you can spam whenever you see like all the enemies spawn in. You pop it, go over, get ready to go to the next area. You use it while you're trying to be in motion, and you can use it several times. In fact, it's part of the just completely moving quickly, moving faster, and everything, no problem. And there you go, Grits. It's like Major is like all these old supporters are really hard to get for the most part, especially like Amane, Karo, and Major, because they are one of the first set of supporters released in the game, and now we have 187 supporters in the game, and I think probably about 140 of them are the general pool. So it's rough going. But Karo being playable one day, I wouldn't mind that at all. That's a really cool character, and she deserves to have some sort of recognition like that. But this is Fost. Fost is another SR character that is an SR supporter that's very, very useful. The passive itself is, it's pretty nice. It's specifically critical rate for ranged attacks. You can make it very cheap to use and use it in most every other builds, and lots of other builds actually. You can combine it with Homra. You can even combine it with Hoshino over here, and you can do all that sort of stuff. Most importantly, though, this finds a home in VR and other hard content regarding machines, because every 42 seconds you can press the button and you can reduce the defensive machine type enemies by 100% for 12 seconds. This can be reduced by other cooldown reduction supporters, so you can come in there and just do like insane damage to like very hard bosses. This is a staple in machine VR specifically for the call itself. The critical hit rate, it falls off real hard, but at least Fost, a character who has more representation in RPGX and is a base game supporter, actually gets a good representation and maintains a lot of use in VR. I think ever since machines have started, I have always had Fost in the main slot for one of my characters, because just taking down their defense by 100% makes it so the mission completes in 5 seconds. That's not an exaggeration either. You can complete machine VR in like 5 seconds if you have the right setup. And this is part of it. Like you can do like a negative 140% damage reduction, negative 140% defense with like Tokiko and Fost active. It's really great. So now we go on to Major. Oh wait, yeah, we already got Hoshino Mitsuki. Okay. So now we go on to Major. Major itself is another base game supporter who has found use in a lot of content actually. You can take this character specifically for playing like defensively in content you're not confident with your damage or you're trying to win through an attrition. Major does 2,000 damage to a bonus damage, like 2,000 damage to a single enemy. It's like Stella. This attack is extremely hard, but is still affected by critical rate and damage. So whenever it gets hit by this, you do insane damage with it. You just call it and like bop them in the head and it's over. For the longest time in the arena, people would use this for like dealing with Emily's. That is until like the invincibility supporters came out and kind of rendered this setup useless. Major then fell out of favor for a long time, unless you're using your arena, so you could turtle up there in the first place and not take a lot of damage from like Emily or something. Now we have VR. You can take this to machine VR. Whoever's going to be your tank character, when you max out the Major supporter, that's 50% less damage taken from machine type enemies. That's really, really good. It makes it so you can have make things that survive longer. You can play the game, and it's like you get your debuffer, defensive healing people like Lapis or Tokiko or Micah. I usually use this for Micah in the first place so she doesn't get like kicked to death by machines. Great supporter for defensive play. It's really only Shizuru in the first place. I would think Shizuru would use it mostly for like what? Because she uses it for 3. She wants to be 3 slotted and all red besides the main slot. So Major would just like, if we're in machine so she doesn't get kicked to death immediately, which is nice. Red debuffs and not dying. That's right, it applies the whole effect immediately. Let's see. Next is Mito Haruka. This is another really, really great SR supporter. I love her a lot because you get to take her on now 2 events that have machines. Not machines, but humans. This thing, this is very weird because it like maxes out like 60%. No, it's 40% and it's 60. It's 40% more human damage at max, which is great because what is it? The only other supporter that's ever come close to just raw human damage is not Fost. It's that B bitch from like later on, the one with the hammer. That one, because it can do the same thing that Haruka does. I think it's like 60% more damage. On like, what is it? 60% more damage against human enemies, but it's on a % chance roll. This is 40% at all times. You don't have to do anything special. And even then, you get the nice benefit of also taking 60% less damage from human enemies, which is amazing in just about all the content in the game. You get the best of both worlds. Sadly, she's only an SR, so she gets SR stats. That doesn't matter anymore since you can enchant her to 15. I don't think there's a version of Haruka that I don't have her at 15 because, my God, she is so good. There's no reason you should ever crush her up until you got her 5-5. Great supporter. Effectively no bad things about her to say. And Crushington has it right over there since most tower stuff, 2 VR things are human, and a lot of bosses are human in general. So you'll be hitting hard and hitting fast with her. No call effect either. Now this is Mercy. Mercy is one of the other mileage supporters. She's one of the few SR ones in the first place. What she does is make it so that you farm faster and more efficiently because you have a % chance of getting a bonus item when you complete a quest. There are, I think, 2 more supporters that have this. It's another one we got from an event that has UR stats. This also has a gold game boost. This is nice for when, like, right now when we had earlier that had the, what's it called? When we had gold game boost, you could get something like, 75 to 90,000 gold per run on something like gold daily, where you have gold bricks, you have silver and gold brick that come in there, and you also have the 90,000. You'd have the 90,000 from other gold boosts and stuff like that. Nice efficiency booster. Everybody should at least have like 1 copy because like 20% chance to gain another item, and then you have like the other farmable boosters that you get from Affinity Boost, which are really great. I love those a lot. I always have them on at all times in the first place. So you get like 2, 4, 6, and then you have another 20%. I don't know. I think the boost is like. No, I think it rolls differently because there's the Heavy Sheikah boost, there's the Affinity boost, and I think the Mercy boost is a different one itself. So they can roll 3 different times, and it doesn't like stack together. It's really just nice to farm, and you can also change its attribute as well, so you can like make it fit into another color system that you need it to. So it's like if you want to change it to like blue easy mode Emily, so you can have her just like you get all 3 colors on her homing missiles. And just let her like farm for free. It's a pretty dead simple supporter. Very nice to say the least. Pure efficiency. All right, Mercy's done. Where is she at? And now we have Onigumo Saburo. This is one of the most coveted supporters for effectively the game's entire life, because this supporter ran once. at the very beginning of the game. I think it was like the second or third event ever. If you missed it back then, you missed it for the next like 4.5 years. It really sucks. Let's see. But because the most important part about it is that it's 40 at max. It's 44% damage more, 44% more damage to demons. That is extremely valuable because guess how many times we're fighting demons and humans in every part of the game? It's like all the time. You take this to like Queen Kanaloa. You got wow, I'm trying to remember what the demons are for that. Oh, Spider Queen and Queen Kanaloa. You just hit them harder, makes life easier. Not beast, but demon bonus bosses, stuff in the tower as well. It's just generally a very good supporter. It gets the UR stat boost. She's a very old supporter too, because the only other time you could ever have gotten the supporter as well was if you got the task force package, and it's like you had to pay an exorbitant amount of money to effectively get enough copies of her to be useful. And that was the only one. I mean, it's like we haven't had her that portion rerun for like I think almost a year and a half now. But thankfully they reran it so everybody can get a 5/5 copy. It's more damage specifically to racials, and it's also in a color that needed this in the first place. Not having like this boost in this color was like very a sad state of affairs to say the least. I always wanted this supporter, and I finally have it myself. Lovely stuff. Very, very good supporter. Let's see. 38. Now this is Issei Nodoka. On first glance, she's a very underwhelming supporter. She's one of our gold boosters, so you run her with this one other green supporter and Mercy to go farm for gold. So it's like really good for when we had that gold boost the other day, and it gave like you get 75 to 90,000 gold, no problem. She's an assist character, so she does like gives not debuffs, but it's like gives specialty situations. This is what you want her for most of all, is the disarm effect. This is an event supporter that gives instant disarm. In green, I think the only other thing at the time that would have disarm that lasted for more than like a couple seconds, like the max is at like what, 10-second disarm. Really great. This is one of the instigators for doing the disarm strategy on what's it called Mass Taimanin, because it's instant speed. It will happen as soon as you press the button and affect the enemy. Obviously, it won't stop the whatever moves from happening, but it'll make them stop from doing the anything else afterwards. Because I forget what it is. It's like this other assist type supporter that does the same thing, but it has a projectile, and you have to aim it and be near the enemy, and it still takes like 1 to 2 seconds to get off in the first place. Instant speed disarm is like really, really rare, and also very good, because I think only as a character we have Saika has an instant speed disarm with takeover, and that's only like 4 seconds. It's like, man, it sucks. It's 4 seconds. It's just barely enough to get you out of the next situation. And Foxy Grandma also has a disarm built into her. Another instant speed disarmer would probably be, I want to say Spinel with her weapon. So you have to roll for a weapon that's very specifically limited in a pool. This supporter was in an event. It was very easy to acquire, and it has multifaceted aspects you could get, and stay very beneficial throughout like its entire life. Like you put this for gold farm, and you do this so you can disarm. Great supporter. Let's see, 41. Now, I'm sure everybody's familiar to some extent with Fujibayashi Yuno. This is the supporter that makes Murasaki go absolutely hulking out and do like 800 to 900,000 damage criticals right off of her basics. For the most part, it's a very it's the first instance of having a supporter that costs particles to use its passive effect. You typically don't run this in anywhere else but the main slot because of the passive and because of the active. The critical rate of normal attacks boosted by 16% at maxed out. That's nice. You don't care about particles at that point. You just run critical rate and critical damage. Because when this maxes out, that's 56% critical damage off of normal attacks. It makes Murasaki... This is what makes Murasaki, besides Tentacle Anchor and Tentacle Mine. No, Tentacle Mine, that's it. You pop Tentacle Mine, you slow down the enemy, you drop their defense by 75%, and you just run up on them with Murasaki and start suddenly doing about like probably 500, 800,000 damage. And what makes this even better is the cherry on top. You become invincible for 14 seconds. Absolutely perfect supporter for Murasaki. Perfect for anybody really who relies a lot on basic attack strings like Murasaki, Spinel, Asagi for sure. This is another really good one for her. Lots of characters who rely like on basic attack strings get a lot of use out of this. And this invulnerability makes sure your stacks don't decay for a while. That's especially important on Asagi when she's running the high risk, high reward Naraku. I remember a long time ago, Belody did a showcase of this, of like supporter setups for friends in the tower, and I had the Eeynooka set up for my Asagi, and it wasn't working very well because it's like you're not supposed to use her skills. You just use the skill. You just use the. Well, I forget what her triple green skill is called, but you use that as like you don't. What is it? You get the stacks of Naraku with the vulnerability. You do a ton of critical damage with their basic attack string, and you use the skill, the start op, and the finisher move for the triple green skill, and you don't press the button because it does like those parts of the skill have like insane damage multipliers, so they hit really hard. So I saw it, I'm like, oh dude, you're not using it right. Oh no. Oh well. Eeynooka is still a very solid supporter. Very good for like most people when they in most situations. Like you take it to the tower, you take it to farming, you take it to everywhere else. You take it to the arena most of all. It's classic stuff in there. 14 seconds of invulnerability. Great stuff. You wait out the clock and try to get some poor sap who didn't pack it in the first place to beat you. Wow, Blazer, I think you're starting to see a pattern. Pure damage is probably like the better strategy on a lot of situations because it ends the situation faster. Because the less time you spend in a bad situation, the less likely you're going to get hurt. Let's see. Eeynooka's done. Misaki. No, it's my mischief makers. All right. This little Mesugaki over here is one of the core critical damage supporters in the game because she honestly has it all. Because she has damage to all enemies boosted, maxes out at 20. Critical damage dealt to bosses by 25% for 10 seconds upon scoring a critical hit. This duration refreshes every time you get a critical hit anywhere. So if you stack criticals to at least probably about 50% or to some extent, if you're critting about every 1 to 3 hits, you'll be fine to keep this up on like maintaining. It's great for just blowing up bosses, especially on like, you go to tower 100, you just get a crit on like one of your basic skills or something. You go teleport behind Black or Ingrid or Oboro and blow them up for like 5 million damage or even higher because it's just great. Love it. And even then her call ability is just like nice to have in like the main slot because it's a safety net. Because it just does a little bit of damage, knocks back enemies, and then restores 30% of your lost HP. It'll get you out of a clutch situation if you're trying to play for attrition. Wonderful supporter. Love this little girl, I gotta say that much. She's the Mesugaki that could. Well, let's see. Who's next? 50. All right, Kurachi Kato. Let's see. Crit was good, is maybe even better. Crit's still very good in most situations. Like, everybody talks about, like, you know, VR brought down Critical's ability to slow the entire player base down so they can build up other stuff at the same time. You can use Criticals if you've really invested into it. It certainly is still worth it. Like, being able to blow up bosses like really quickly is like nice for farming, because obviously the longer you spend on a more dangerous situation, the more likely you're going to die or just not win. But this is Kate Kurachi. She's a very good supporter for like people who have to want, what is it? It's a great crowd control supporter, because you get increased damage dealt with range attacks on snared enemies by 12%, increases the critical rate on ranged attacks on snared enemies by 8% for 7 seconds upon scoring a critical hit. This is effectively tailor-made for characters like Sakura, who can snare, but also it's more or less made for Sora. This is also probably why her as a supporter is in the same intimacy scene for Sora herself. Because of the passive, when you have it in the main slot, you snare up to 4 random enemies for 6 seconds, applies every 4.5 seconds with a 50% chance, make multiple attacks that deal 265% damage. I think that's like, what, 250 something damage? 550 something damage or something when it maxes out. It's very nice for crowd control. So you can have Sora who wants to keep enemies at bay and also hold enemies down so they stop beating the crap out of you, and they stay in one place so they're a lot less dangerous. It's good on just about everything you can do, because on places where they have fast, dangerous enemies like Mass Taimanin, the machines for sure, Spider so they don't actually get out of any AoEs you've set down. Ingrid's actually pretty good for this too, because you can actually just, you have to defeat Lena first, and then you can do this, because Snare is a debuff. But another probably good is like, what is it? I forget what floor it is where you fight Anrose and Tempest 2 in the same area. This makes it so that Anrose sits in the same spot and she doesn't run up and hit you, so you can like concentrate on fighting someone like Tempest 2, or trying to get a heal off or recover or reposition. This is just like a really great supporter for like all around just solving your problems from like the back end. It helps ranged characters out a lot, and that's why Sora loves it so much. Effectively every character can get something out of it too. That is if you play ranged. Now I know everybody knows who this is. This is Miss Spica. Miss Spica herself is one of the power creep has hit her pretty good, because she is an invulnerability supporter, maxes out at 14 seconds. You see it in the arena all the time. She's a critical rate booster for melee attacks and a critical damage booster for ranged attacks. She is one of those supporters that is the best of all situations at once, which is not a bad thing at all. In fact, I still find myself using this on like for general farming situations, because it's like I want Emily to crit more or something. I want her to do more critical damage, or like have characters just like Aina who wants like critical damage because they have all the critical rate in the world. So I want them to hit hard and fast to move quickly. I take Spica because it makes it so the attacks can get off. They do a bunch of damage, and there is nothing to her. She comes in a color too that actually has she's, I think, what, the second supporter in the suppress world that has a that has invincibility, because the only other one I can think of would be Red Furfur, the one from we get from the summer event. And if you change Shisui to red. So outside of Shisui, her and Furfur are the only ones with the invulnerability there, at least from what I can remember. Everybody knows her though. Everybody understands how good she is. Very nice. 57. Now 57 is a classic case of do more damage. She makes a character who has ranged attacks do more damage. That's it. She has a line drive call effect on a 46-second cooldown, so it's pretty spammable if you're getting chased in like Tower 75 or something like that. You can stop, fire it behind you, and it'll drive through like 12. It'll drive through all the enemies for 1,200 damage. But just doing more damage with ranged attacks is like as great on characters like who are completely ranged core, like what's her name? Murasaki. Yukikaze is very good for this. Emily is too. There's a lot of like if you have a ranged core build, that like this and Granny Province are like the go-to supporters for it. If you don't have like a specific like situational one that you need for like whatever, this is like the best filler you can get. We've had this supporter reran about twice now, so you can spread it around. Let's see. What is it? 60. And this is the melee counterpart of Nino Weaver. This is Nagi Katone. We have a supporter. This is a supporter that makes it so you do 30% more damage dealt with melee attacks. There are a ton of characters in this game who use melee all the time. It's very important for them to do as much damage as possible. This is something you would see all the time in VR and every part of the game, because it makes something the characters normally would be doing even better. Like there's nothing wrong with it. It's just an all-around good supporter. It's great. It's if you're not being able to just strictly run criticals, like you haven't built that setup yet, this supporter has ran twice. You have the ability to just do more melee damage. It's great. 30% at max, and it combines later on with another melee supporter, so you can have 2 sets of 30% more melee damage in there to just hit really goddamn hard. This is another core supporter for Murasaki as well. It's core for about anybody who likes to run green, to say the least. If you're not running critical green, you're running like melee. You're like melee focused green, because that's a lot of what they have. Now this is a Mekamura Uraru. This is what is it? This supporter has ran twice and is also another really, really important supporter to the protect section. We have at this moment we have 4 machine characters: Shisui, Asuka, Emily, and what is it? Saika. All 4 of those characters do not have a lot of like machine damage racial benefit boosters. This is like one of the few that actually exists in the game. It comes from an event too. This is also another case of like event supporters being like some of the most busted and like important supporters in the game. When you miss an event or don't farm enough inside it, you will feel it, because this is a supporter that it's like if you want to run a blue build on a machine character in now or in the future, you need this, because it maxes out at 36%, and there's not a lot of like direct machine boosted supporters. That like at least for the racial type. The call itself is okay at best. You knock it, you set it down, it's a trap. It's whatever. It's nice on a fixed plane situation like Arena, but it's like there's better supporters you could be using as the main in Arena. Let's see. 66. Now I know everybody knows who this is. This is good old Sakuragi Saruga, Miss Crit Cat. Here's what she does. She makes you crit more, she makes you crit harder. You don't ever use this in the main. There's just no reason to, because this call sucks. It's like, wow, you do a 1200 damage critical boosted attack, and it does a 72% bleed. This bleed effectively scales off of this damage, so no. From what I remember, it's like bleed does not work like burn, from what I remember. Or no, I think they changed the way dots are calculated, in the sense that like it doesn't scale off the damage dealt. It's like your damage or something. Like the damage dealt, but it's like your damage itself you deal. So it does 72% of your normal damage, and like this does like 680. It'll do like 1200 something damage to an enemy. You like annihilate them, and you get a shitty bleed out of it. You put this in the sub slot, so you can put Kaoru or Chujo Nano in the main slot and blow people up with it. Like this is like the premier critical sub supporter. She's very cool. We love our cute and funny kitty over here. Very nice lady. There's not a lot to say about her because she just runs crit. She's just like the critical master. Whenever you pick up a copy of her, you get her 5/5 as fast as possible. But here we are with Shirayuki. Shirayuki herself is another event supporter who is insanely great. She maxes out at 36%. This has been ran, I think, only one time because this is a suppress. It's in the suppress color, and it's a demon booster. We have, I think, like what, 18 characters who are demons in the first place. You run this in the sub slot. You put this in their red builds, and you just go absolutely fucking bonkers with it. Like, what is it? Astaroth can run this like all day. Oboro runs this. I run this with Oboro like all the time because it's just 36% more damage for simply being a demon. That's it. The main effect itself is okay. It's a single target, speed buster with, it slows you down. That's nice. It does 1,000 something damage. It does, 1160 damage. That's nice. 40% slow for 10 seconds. It doesn't work on machines, but the sub passive does. Good stuff. I wish I had more copies of this supporter so I could put it on something like Eleanor. Let's see. 67.75. And just like Nina Weaver, this is Granny Province. She does more damage to ranged attacks. If you're a ranged character, you run them together. This is effectively the other secondary equivalent to the poison version of the green supporter, where it's like it has like the specific type boost along with a secondary effect. She can bleed people by you just press the button every 40 seconds, you can make them bleed. You'll take 20% less damage from them, and you do 30% more damage from ranged attacks in the first place. Really solid supporter. I love Granny too. This is one of my favorite supporters in the game. I love her design. I love her story. I love little girl with gigantic fists. My favorite type of character, especially I know Taimagogo had a character like this. It's Esmeralda. Esmeralda is another fist character with little girl with fists. It's yes. Give me a Marie Rose with gigantic fists any day of the week. One of my favorite mecha tropes. But Granny's just pure damage and safety. Very good supporter. It works the same way as Nina Weaver. 77. Like what I was talking about earlier, this is Sasha Sawawashi Ichika. That's a lot of vowels. She does the same thing as Nina Weaver, as the Granny Province, where you do type damage increase and reduce damage from a debuff ridden character, and they can do it themselves. It's the complement to the other supporter in the same color, it's not Nina Weaver, it's the other green supporter. So you run this specifically on Murasaki loves this sort of stuff where you put them both together and she'll just do tons and tons of damage. Absolutely lovely stuff. Granted, I think the supporter is also run twice too. So you have, I think, up to 4 copies. You can have 2 copies of Sawawashi. That's it, Kotone and Ichika together, but you have them both, and it's they do 60% more melee damage, and then you just put as the critical head, put her in the first slot, and you just go crazy. Absolutely lovely supporter, very useful. I wish we had more ways to poison. It's unsurprising that Lydia Beretta has made the list because, well, she has a wonderful combination in a really good color. She's a suppressed supporter, so she's going to hit as hard as physically possible. She has a damage to all enemies, 20% maxed out, and critical damage of all attacks by 15%. Ranged, melee, machine, human, demon, you name it. She makes you hit hard in red. You can play criticals in red, and you can even mix and match if you don't even have the other important green supporters for critical annihilation. So we have, and then she even has a answer to stuff in the arena, disables and freezes opponent's supporter skill cooldown for 10 seconds, And then enemy debuff skills and quests don't activate for 5 seconds. Niche use, but still useful in general. And obviously, when she's had this supporter for like years and years, it's fallen off a little bit because, you know, obviously critical damage takes the dive in VR. But what can you do about that? She still finds a pretty solid use in most areas. But her other supporter answers that question, and it also made the list. Who's next? Ooh. Now we got the taco slasher, the octopus style, Miss Aishu Hebiko. She's a little cutie who knows how to whoop some serious ass. This is like Ingrid's favorite supporter ever. I absolutely love this. Because this is one of those that you actually want to get like as many copies as possible. Don't ever crush it. Because damage dealt by demon type characters increased by 24% at max. And you take 24% less damage if you're a demon. And then it has the call effect of removes, I think, like what, 3 buffs? Like 1, 2 buffs? It removes buffs from a single target. This is a supporter that was released like 4 something years ago. Like 3 or 4 years ago, and it still maintains relevancy because it fits on. It is a damage boost in a very difficult color that didn't have it for a while, and it has utility. You can use it to remove invincibility too. You can use this especially on Queen Kanaloa to take off her type invincibility too. That is explicitly what I use it for too, and it makes Ingrid hit harder. Because it's a protect supporter, and Ingrid likes to run all blue for Ignis Explosion. No, what is it? We'll call it Ignis Ignition. Very, very versatile supporter. Astaroth can run this too, if she needs more defense. Very, very good supporter. That is like honest to God, like S-class stuff right there. There it is. Next up, we have Yamato Suzune. This is one of the... Early on, for the longest time, this is a supporter that was the ultimate in debuff boosting. In fact, it still is. It's a very good supporter to this day. There are many characters that have now gotten debuff support. They can inflict lots of them in the first place. Like the most notable examples are obviously Shizuru and Phantasma. When you max this out, this event is actually run twice too. So when you have an enemy with any kind of debuff, it doesn't matter how long or what kind it is, you do 40% more damage to them. That's really nice because you just put in the sub slot. Phantasma just like puts down one of her, just has her Terrifying Presence debuff active. Or you have Foxy Grandma, who has the Puncture debuff, which takes forever and a day to decay. You're doing 40% more damage all the time. It's in Suppress, and Phantasma and Shizuru absolutely love those colors. So you can just play all day with debuffs, and it's just like it complements them so well. Astaroth can actually use this to great effect as well, because her red stuff inflicts Terrorize, and that's a very long-lasting debuff too. Very good stuff. Not to mention a very quick cooldown call, which has a snare and heals you for 30% of your lost HP. Super duper versatile. Hot lady, hotter damage, hotter effects. Very, very good. Like, she is like the gold standard for debuffs, debuff supporters. Everything wants to be her. Sadly, they all can't be the same way, but, well, what can you do? Let's see. 86. Everybody loves Miss Sussy Jinglei, and I love her just as well, too, because she gets in there with the hoo-ha, hoo-ha. She got karate hands, baby. Because she's going to chop your ass up with probably the most important effect if you're trying to, make mass timing and farming really, really easy. We'll get there. She has it in Protect, so this is this gives a protection boost against demons and increases damage dealt to humans. Maxes out at 24%. Pretty okay with the level of boost, but people mostly wanted to take this for the during melee attacks has a 25% chance to increase the duration of one debuff on a target for a maximum of 2 seconds. You take Eeynooka, you use her as soon as you're able. You have your melee users run up with the supporter equipped and constantly keep hitting her to maintain the debuff. Or debuffs if you really want to get down to it. It's an extremely busted ass supporter setup, but it's limited in effect in a lot of situations. But it allows people to climb on mass Taimanin and farm really quickly. It also comes in a color that needs boosts like that. It needs boosts in damage, and it already has the protection capacity inside because it's the protect. They always have some sort of like damage reduction caveat inside them. Having more damage to a specific racial, though, always nice, always nice. But the active you really don't want to use it for, especially if you're going for debuff extensions, because I think what does damage and reduces it gives an attack down. So if you're going for like a debuff extension, it could roll to hit like the damage dealt by 30%. Damage attack down, debuff several times. It's nice, but it's like, to say the least, I don't ever use the active for this. The passive is where it's at. The main passive too. Good supporter, niche effect. Who's next? 89. Now, of course, we can't forget about Momochi Nagi. In fact, she's one of the best enablers of using Sussy Jinglei's witch form to extend the debuff. In fact, you just take her melee booster and she can extend the debuff all by herself. Medea knows how to do bad all by herself, and Nagi can do just as well. Really, really, really good. And her supporter, when she first came out, when they released the supporter years ago, and they made her assist for some reason, suppressed type character damage dealt increased by 12. It's a 12-12 and maxes it out at 24. You take more damage, and if you're suppressed, you take less damage. So we have like what? There are 34 characters, so there's like, I don't know, a third of all characters in the game can use this to some extent. You do more damage, you take less damage. The call effect is like okay at best. It's a very long cooldown. It's going to hit hard one time. Like if you see this multiple times, you're playing slow. You got to hit as hard as fast as possible. Great filler supporter. Especially on characters like Rin. All right. 94. Oh, cool. This is Himura Raina. Raina herself is a very unremarkable supporter, except for the fact that she has critical damage by ranged attacks by 36% in blue. This is like the only critical damage help for like the longest time in blue, and it's certainly been reran. So everybody has a chance at some point to pick up Foxy Christmas over here to come blow up something. This is also one of the most important items to do the blue nuclear blue Tokiko strategy, where you just do you do skill damage boost. You have like Foxy Grandma on the supporters, so like some sort of like racial damage main, and you have Raina as a sub supporter, and then you go do like I forget what her triple blue skill is called. You get the debuff off, and you pop someone for like 4 million damage. It's essentially designed for one-shotting, just like what Tokiko is supposed to do. I like talking more positively about Tokiko. I'm glad she got fixed, because the supporter is now even more effective with her. A lot of people, for like a lot of ranged characters in blue, you know, Astaroth can make really good use out of it, but obviously, since criticals are fucking nerfed in VR, we don't get a lot of use out of her, because if criticals weren't, this would be like instant slot. It would replace like Arbella Glucksheim or something. 97. Everybody's favorite mom, she's back. New Year's Eve Shiranui is a supporter that's like really solid for the most part because it has a specific setup you can do, and also you take less damage from melee attacks and deal more damage from melee attacks. It maxes out at 26%. Very, very helpful for about, 50% of the cast because they do melee attacks. What you do also is this has an effect where you can, one, you have a active. When you activate this, it creates a puddle. When any enemies like step inside it, you deal 24%, you deal 48% more damage for 10 seconds. And they're slowed in it too. So if you drop this puddle correctly, you actually have some really pretty insane potential on your hands to just like absolutely slaughter some sort of like hard enemy. You want to like break down their armor or something, you want to do something crazy, this is like the supporter to do it with. It's in suppress only, so if you want to hit hard, you want to crack something wide open, you go for it. This is also like, if you've ever seen a picture of like, for the longest time, Felicia would use this in the main supporter. You go use a Nagi, and after you've like done some setup, and you do like 100 million damage against like some poor enemy. And that's not a joke either. That's like a real thing you can do. And it requires this supporter because it makes you do like 48% more damage against some poor sap. But also the passive itself is like really nuts because you have a 3-second window to where you do 3% more damage. For 3 seconds, you get 40% more damage every 5 seconds. This cooldown starts like as soon as you get the buff too. You can keep it up for like damn near forever. Very versatile supporter. It has a niche setup, but it's also like good for in a sub situation. There are stronger supporters, but she certainly does prove to be very useful at any level, really. Let's see. Next up is I can't find you. Where are you? Oh, it's next door. Lilum. Oh wow! I just noticed this. This looks like it was scanned from like her wing texture looks like it's right out of like one of the art books or something, because this is like a metal texture on her wings, like it's like a rusted metal panel or something. It's really weird. But this is what Lilum does. I'm sure everybody knows at this point because everybody uses this little girl. Because protect characters get damage dealt increased by 15%. For specifically being a blue character, you get to deal 30% more damage. Oh man, they're like, what? I know, for one thing, Ingrid uses this all the time. It's simply just existing for her is just deal more damage. And even then, the call effect is super nice because at every 48 seconds, it's a fast CD. You make enemies take 30% more damage. You take 30% less damage and a 30% slow for 10 seconds. Lasts long enough to do your big window, get the damage off, to probably one-shot something. It's like it's a great utility all the way around. Thankfully, this has been reran at some point because it's like this is absolutely a supporter you can't miss. Extremely useful in all ways, shape, or form. Let's see. Now here's another core supporter in VR. This is a very like specific setup supporter, and one of my favorite outfits in the game. This is White Feather. White Feather is traditionally used at 1-5 or any level really because of this specific passive. Skill attack removes armor at a 10% chance and immediately restores 3% of your lost HP. This doesn't matter for the most part. This doesn't either. It's just a nuke that does 900% damage. You use this with characters who have skill attacks with many hits. So like Lena, she has like a lot of skill hits and low skill cooldowns. You could use it with someone like what's her name? No, I'm blanking on it. I'm blanking on my fat tit elf who's super brown. Eleanor uses this very well too, because if you run like triple red with her, and then she has attacks to do like 20 to 30 hits a piece. So it's like awesome supporter. And the thing is, there's only like one other character. There's like what? Shisui is the only character who can actually make use out of this benefit in the first place, besides Asuka. Asuka obviously can use this in the first place, and she can actually make very good use out of this as well, because it's designed specifically for her. It makes a character who has like a bit of trouble, fighting some things, and actually makes them work really well. Like you use Bomb Escape, which has like 25 projectiles, and you shove them into somebody, you're going to hit this at some point. Kill 'em all missiles, you have like I think 6 projectiles. Wind Slice, that has more than the Dust Renegade or something. Asuka's really good for using this. Eleanor is too. You can use this on Phantasma as well. Lena. Like, if you're a suppressed type character, you can actually get like a really good benefit out of this, and it just won't be. But like, if you run this on like anyone else who's not like machine or suppress, you're running it specifically for this effect. It's a dead slot up here, like besides this. That means you're going to probably need a team that does a pretty strong damage for the most part, to make up for the fact that it's like you're just doing this to lock down the enemy. But it's still worth it. It's still worth it for this effect alone, because it doesn't matter how much armor is in the bar itself. Like oh, I have to do like 1.5 million damage to this armor bar, and they have defense up. It doesn't matter. You just pop this, roll 10%, 10 hits, bam, done. You get rid of the whole thing. Love it. I love my Kokawa Asuka. I love that her supporter's super good too. This is Stella. Everybody knows what Stella does. You do 30% more damage to all enemies, and it's in suppress. You want to hit hard? You want to hit hard all the time? This is it. This is your girl. They have reran this again. You get to have 2 copies. You can put it on the entire team, and it makes building so much easier. I love this because I have 2. I can just put it on someone else. I can put on 2 people in my team, and I can free up another supporter. Lovely stuff. Even the thing is, like, even this is actually a really cool effect, because you strike a fatal blow with a bat onto an enemy. You deal 1,400 damage, and it's not affected by critical rate reduction. It is honestly kind of nuts to see, like, when you're at, like, let's say when you're playing, like, Mass Taimanin or something, and you're, like, floor 90, you get to see this skill do, like, 1 million damage, and it feels good to see something that does 1 million damage up there. It's quite fun. That's just a great Stella is a great all-around supporter. Not exactly the best design. I don't like the way she looks, but I like her mechanically. Thankfully, I get to keep her in the sub slot, so I don't have to look at her. I really wish they would rerun the gacha for a lot of these, like, really, really good supporters. It would make, like, a lot of stuff easier for a lot of people just to, like, accumulate. It's just so good. Do I have Pirate Kiara on there? Yes, I do. Pirate Kiara, the effectively the outfit series that killed Miss Kiara herself. What can I say that hasn't been said about this before? You do at maxed out, you do 40% more damage as a demon type character. That's even more damage than Shirayuki. It's honestly crazy. And then you get a healing benefit besides that, and it has no other base benefit, no other like base thing you need to do that. Every 10 seconds you get 6% of your lost HP back. Great for turtling. You get the liquor barrel. It deals 20% damage. It's easy damage and stuff like that. And then you have the active. okay at best. It's a speed reduction. It's a hard 10% too, so it doesn't do anything much like that. You usually take this for the sub effect, which is makes demon characters hit extremely freaking hard. Like, you get, what is it? You would use, like, I typically like to use this with Astaroth, and like I have like Onigumo. Like if let's say we're fighting, perfect, Spider Queen. Spider Queen is a demon enemy. So you get Onigumo to crush some spiders with spiders, and you get Astaroth with meteors because she's a demon, does 40% more damage, and then whatever I have in the main slot. She's hitting real hard. You can laugh about Miss Mustache there, Jeff. You're right though. It's still a very nice supporter. Love it a lot. It's also in blue. This is also, what is it? This supporter came around the time when they're really starting to put a lot of support into blue. And this really led the way for it because it's just so good on literally almost like about 40% of the cast. Like the mustache. You got a twirler mustache. She's very evil, you know. 111. Sadly, I don't have Classic Rin. I have Assault Rin, though. That's a good supporter. But this is another really good supporter for Miss Rin. Miss Rin, it works the same way as like, wow. It works the same way as about like the Nagi supporter. Because the Nagi supporter is a 12-12 boost to a specific facet. This is for, if you are a human, you do now 24% more damage, and you take 24% less damage from enemies in general. So it's just very strong all the way around because of this. So it's like, okay, you're a human. That's literally like half the cast. You do 24% more damage. You take now 12% less damage from all enemies. This is in Suppress, which typically does not have all the best in terms of defense. So if you want to hit hard and also have a little bit of support behind you, yeah, this is it. This is your thing to do. The call itself is okay at best. It stuns, but it also deals its own electrocution debuff. Electrocution is from what I remember, it's a damage over time and defense down. Very helpful all the way around. It's like one thing that Rin does extremely well is electrocution. It's a unique debuff, so it counts. It doesn't count in the same of what is it? It counts as a separate defense modifier because one, it has a different value, and also it has a different timing. So if Rin inflicts her own electrocution for 5 seconds and this inflicts its own electrocution, it's two different values and they stack because they're different durations. 9 seconds is something is like so weird and specific, but that's probably because you are able to stack it with other things. They wanted to make sure it doesn't interfere with other stuff. Because most of the time they're like 5 seconds, 3 to 5 seconds, 3 to 5 to 10 seconds. 9 seconds is specifically for like meta reasons. Oh yes, the famous Rin support that had the intimacy scene that somebody leaked and caused a big stir and probably kind of messed things up again for the community. It's a sad state of affairs when that happens. Next up we have Laura. Laura herself is part of the Critical Annihilation team. If you are a human, you get to do 15%. You have a 15% higher. You have a 30% higher critical hit rate. Enough said. You're now, if you have problems like getting your critical hit rate up, or your Magatamas just ain't doing it for you, you're now able to just go, okay, now I have 30% more to criticals, and I can do it all the time. Absolutely, it's a nice supporter, but it's like the one caveat of being a human type kind of, seals the deal for a lot of people who want to run criticals. But most of the Critical Annihilation team likes to use is human, and then there's a few in like demons as well. Obviously, Ingrid can't use this, but Ingrid does not have a problem with critting because she has this. And this supporter is very niche as well. But we're going to go over here to Sora. Miss Kanazuki Sora is very good specifically in things like VR, and also if you're not doing a lot of damage or just having a hard time clearing, because, you know, you can put this in a critical annihilation setup as like your main effect. Wait, actually you had to put in your main effect for what you're going to do next. You put in your main slot, you have your critical rate boosters or whatever in the back. So you get more damage off your ranged attacks, and when you're hit, you can remove a buffeted enemy at a 10% chance. Awful chance. You're most likely never going to see it in the first place. It's way too specific. But what people mostly use this for is like events or missions that are going to run a really long time. Like you sit there really high in the tower, or like high in VR, where things are going to take a solid minute to do. So it increases your damage by 10% every 10 seconds after the battle starts, stacks up to 5 times, does not decay. So after 50 seconds, you're going to be doing about 50, you have a permanent 50% more damage. Really nice for people who just want to have, like, you know, you're going to be taking a long time, you just need to do more damage in the first place. So it's just nice for pushing, and it's also like just to shore up your damage if you really aren't confident in like trying to jump in or something like that. So you always have like a constant buff, and you can chip away easily. And then you have the knockback. You don't have like what is it? It's like a little small stun, and then you'll just like shoot arrows at everybody, and it deals 1100 damage. It's a niche effect, but it's a good effect. Okay. Tell me why I've had Astaroth since she came out, and I'm just now finding out how broken she is. You must not be playing a lot of Astaroth then. Because, here's a cool piece of trivia, guys. Astaroth is a, like, year 1 character, and she has had, like, the least amount of changes out of, like, any of those in the first place, even after her renewal. In fact, her renewal only continued to make her better. For the longest time, I thought I even covered this too. Like, Noah released, Astaroth released, and Tokiko released. It's like, that is something I've completely and totally forgotten in the first place. Because Astaroth is so good, and it's like, she's always been so nice to use, even before they got her targeting change and her nerf. But she still remains very strong to this day, and she just has very minimal changes for the most part. It's what you call, it's what they made. They made a good character. It's like, why didn't they make Noah and Tokiko good? Literally the 2 characters that released around Astaroth were terrible for the longest time. But back to it though. This is Fuma Yukina, the unsung hero of the Fuma family, because she gets to do 40% more skill damage in red. This is quite literally like, this is a busted ass supporter, because 1, you're going to be doing 40% more damage with your skills. How often are you using skills? Literally every single second of every day you're playing this game. You use it on Rin, you use it on like Phantasma, you use it on like, you can use this on anybody who wants to run red, because it's just that good. Use it on Tokiko. Use it on Foxy Grandma. You use it on Asagi. You use it on Yukikaze. It comes in a color that people want to have, and it does just 20% more skill damage is good, and then you max out at 40%. Solid stuff. It's just hit harder. It's such a simple concept, and that's why it works so well. And then you even get a pretty cool effect in the first part with her call effect is it subdues enemies with their evil eye with 30% with a 60% chance of instant death. If the instant death fails, 300, you get 600% damage dealt instead. Bosses and playable characters are immune to instant death but do take damage. This can work on Ingrid. Not in the sense that like you're going to be able to instantly kill Ingrid because she's the boss character. However, when you go into phase 2 and you have to have Lena there, Lena is considered a regular enemy. So you can effectively lose your coin flip and not kill Lena, and you'll still be doing a shitload of damage to her. Or you could just go instantly kill her in the first place. It's a little bit of a lot gambling, but it certainly still is worth it to try. Because even then, you've still got the skill damage behind you. You got to break her armor. So you can just go put it in something like, oh, I want to run triple red Asuka or something, so I can just bowl something over. Great. This makes her hit even harder than ever. Like the classic combo of like, what is it? We've got White Feather, Fumi Yukina, and Lydia Beretta. Bam. Easy peasy. This is a gacha supporter though, so it's very hard to get. Even on initial release for her, it's hard to get her, because the pool is going to continuously get more bloated, and it's going to be hard to get great supporters like these. That's why you save your tickets. Alright, 127. This is like one of the fastest supporters to ever get rerun in the first place, Argbella Glucksheim. It's like, you do 40% more damage to bosses. That's it. And then you have a call effect that does, 1300% more damage. Great. It's super simple. It's just designed to hit as hard as possible. Our Ojo-sama little blue demon girl hits hard, hits fast, hits simply. You gotta love her. She also comes in Protect, a color that, obviously wants to have, like, a lot of characters as of late have really solid and good blue builds. This is like what you slot in them always in VR. You can do this in Tower too, because if like you eventually get to the boss, bam, 40% more damage permanently. You go over there to like the tower, kaboom, 40% more damage to the boss itself. No problem. There's no reason not to have the supporter in VR, because it's effectively designed for it. Troublemaker. It's just a good supporter all the way around. Simple, easy, and to the point. 133. Now here's the supporter that is the only thing that's been keeping Felicia relevant for probably the last 2 years. Well, that and her healing ability until Lapis came along. New Year Felicia is a very simple and effective two-sided strategy in the fact that you do more skill damage and you do more damage as an assist type character. So you know who you put this on? You go put this on Emily when you're doing dailies or in like anywhere else. Or you go put it on like Asagi, who wants to hit as hard as possible. And you want to use something like debuff extension on like Mass Taimanin. It's a blue supporter that works for assist characters. This is traditionally designed for Felicia herself because she is an assist character, but since so many of the game's assist characters are strong, it's worth doing. Like you can put this on Spinel too, and it's like it works great because it has universal, almost universal benefits all the way around. Since a third of the cast is assist and everybody uses skills, it's always good. You can put this in the sub and just be just fine. Then you have the main effect, which is reduce damage taken from all enemies by 30% for 5 seconds when a healing effect is active. Then you have the active, which is when you do this, you drop a field, restores 10% of your HP every 3 seconds, and increases damage dealt to all enemies by 10%. So you drop this field, you have your teammates inside it, they will deal more damage to enemies, they will heal for a lot of HP. It's every 3 seconds though, so it's a pretty solid tick. You got to keep them in there. Same thing with yourself, but it lasts a long time. You get 5 total ticks out of it, so you can heal up to 50% of your HP. It's very, very worthwhile to have in terms of support and attack. It's like quite literally like the best of both worlds. It's less specific than what's it called? It's less specific than White Feather, where you need like a machine or a suppressed character. Suppressed characters can get like, benefits out of that, and especially like assist characters too. But this has like a whole team benefit, not specifically just like for bust. It's a team healing and a support effect rather than just breaking armor. You don't feel like you're at a specific loss if you're using on a character that doesn't get any of these boosts. Great. It's a, what is it? This is, no, we'll get to her though. I think she's the next one actually. It's a good supporter in just about every situation. Oh, this is, no, it's not Nase. A Yumu. I thought that was the boss character we had earlier. Here she is. This is Sengen Misaki. Currently, right now, as of this recording, she has her supporter is being ran. You need to pick this up immediately. There is no reason to never pick this up because damage increased in time of 5 VR increased by 50% at max. And then it has a main slot effect with the call that instantly heals 20% of your lost HP and restores particles by 40%. This is one of their supporters where it's like directly an answer to VR. If your character wants to use green, and now you can actually sit there and use it with Misaki. It is so good. I don't want to exactly, it's pretty busted in VR, and everywhere else though it's kind of, specifically in VR it's good. Everywhere else not that good because you could be using something else. And most likely you will probably be using critical annihilation or the melee boosters. That's just the long and the short of it. It's a very good supporter. 42. This is one of the core caveats of the critical annihilation setup, because it's what I like to call is the effective sequel to Tekken Karo. Chujo no, my goodness, this lady is great because she gets a nuke on the same level as Kaoru. It takes much longer for it to come back though, but it has a damage taken by 10% from all enemies. Nice stuff. You deal 40% more damage with the ranged attack, and you do 40% more critical damage with the melee attack. It doesn't have the universal features of Kaoru with 40%, 44% critical damage to all aspects. This is specifically restricted to melee, but being able to hit harder, and you have something hit harder with a ranged, and it can factor better into your criticals itself, and you have better critical damage with melee attacks, which you could have built up with other features inside it. It's great all the way around. It's a nuke. It's fast. It's easy. You want that. You really just want this. It's so nice. It's like I love having her myself. Besides, who doesn't like cool Gunblade girl anyways? This is a supporter that I wish they would see more often of. I like her. Who's next? Oh. It's You Are Saika. So who likes Saika? Me. I love Miss Saika a lot because she's got the cool hair. She's got the Dong Tang woman outfit. She's got the butler outfit. She's got the robot legs. She should be showing off that cooch everywhere. Like, she got no problems at all showing off. By God, she's so body positive. She could walk around naked and make everybody else feel intimidated. I like Saika. I like her supporter even more. In fact, I liked it so much I forgot it that I was even in the pool again and didn't roll for it. Because what she does is 10% chance to restore particles by 5% when using skills. That's okay. Increase skill damage by 20%. It's Fuma Yukina, but in green. So it's already a strong supporter. Already a strong supporter type. You know, Fuma Yukina was in red. You do 20%, you do 40% more damage with skills. Then you take it to green, which traditionally has critical boosting, all kinds of other powerful rate boosting stuff to make more damage happen. Great stuff. Like, you effectively use it for this passive in the first place. Then you have Dominate Over. For its passive with the attack penetration boost is actually like much more useful than you would think. Because penetration actually, like, you know, obviously when you're over there in VR, and you start getting higher and higher, defense becomes so insanely high that you just got to find some way to get through it. So having any sort of like penetration gain in the first place, you just want it to happen it just happen at all. 10%, it may make a little bit of difference. But Skullface Oboro just really really just grind your gears and get more shit done than you could ever imagine. Regardless, though, this is still a very good supporter. And even then, this is actually one of the few supporters that reduces HP restore from enemies. So if you're having trouble with Nanase Mai, just go ahead and use this in your main slot, nuke her, and then she will have a 50% HP recovery when she uses that attack, and she won't recover like the 3 million health and make the fight even harder. Because I know she hits like a truck for y'all. But don't worry, we're going to avoid the puddle. Okay. 145. Oh. This is Chikage. She is effectively Yuno for a new age. Criticals obviously have decreased in relevancy in VR, but the idea of Yuno, though, is still very important. She still brings invincibility. She still has the critical damage boost that people like to use in Arena and other parts of the game. So they effectively, that's like, all right, we're gonna have Pretty Lady return. She's got the cool kimono, the cool things in her hair, the spider lily. So we're just gonna have her effect, but it's like makes it universal again. So 5% particle cost, and then you have the universal. Increase melee attack damage by 20 to 40% and bonus penetration built in naturally. So you will never have particles again if you ever have this equipped. Don't equip it in your sub slot. But it doesn't have the insane main ability in the fact that Yuno has invincibility and critical damage boosting. This just has teleports behind the enemy and deals 1300 damage to nearby enemies and reduces damage taken by 50% for 5 seconds. Pretty shitty call, but it's like, yeah, you actually would want to use this in the sub slot, but it's still good. 40% more damage, and it's like in VR, I'll say it. I don't like to use particles in VR because, well, they actually have a debuff that you can roll to make sure you're never going to get particles again. So it doesn't matter. It's 40% more damage to simply exist. I only have one copy of her, so I hope to have more in the future. Chikage. Ooh, Founding 3. Now, this is the Founding 3. We got one of these bad boys in the, last year actually, for the 3rd anniversary. It's like the best filler you could ever ask for, because you get to do 13% more damage, 13% more defense, 10% more health. And then every 3 combos increases your critical damage by 8%, actually 16%, for 5 seconds, stacks 3 times, so that's 48. And then summons the same type of character as the supporter type, which deals 160% of damage for 12 seconds. Does not pull enemies. It's versatile in the fact that you can change it to any attribute, you can fit it to any build you need. You deal more damage, take less damage, and max HP boost. It's everything anyone ever wants. Like, there's no reason to just like not use it. But the only way you're ever going to get another copy is using for 10,000 mileage. Yeah, you spend the 10,000 mileage, or is it 15? I can't remember. It's a lot. Or you use Demonites. And frankly, using Demonites on this is not a bad idea. It's very good. Astaroth is a very neat character. It's like, I don't know. I've had her for like the longest time, and I always know I learned how to use her very well. She actually feels very satisfying to me, because it's like you play her like a space shooter, because like the goal is to never ever get hit with Astaroth, because getting hit with her, she has like a 3-second recovery animation, and it can constantly keep restarting if you don't get out of the situation. So you sit there and just play like Gradius or something, and you just like graze bullets and try to like weave in and out of attacks. It's honestly like a really fun way to play. And then also, she also has the extreme benefit of being the highest damaging character in VR. Now this is Saya Neo. When she was first introduced, I think last year, she was one of the most very coveted supporters for one, blue, and two, in general, because she's a legacy character that everybody likes, and she reduces damage taken by demon type characters and increases their skill damage by 10%. You put her in the main slot, 20% more damage to demon type characters, and just a line drive nuke. So what happens is that you put this on someone like, Lapis, or especially Astaroth, because if like Astaroth has been taking a lot of damage in your fights, this will be great because she'll just get to live longer in the first place. And the AI usually likes to point themselves directly at the enemy, so her call won't miss. Really good supporter. It's really good in general. Just like there's no problems with it at all. In fact, it's like they're about to rerun the supporter in the second half of October. So keep an eye out for it if you're watching this in the future or whatever. More or less, you're like, you guys gonna pick this girl up? Because honestly, I would try to get another copy myself. She's actually general pool too. So like as soon as she got introduced, you're able to pick up more copies of her over time. So if you use like one of those vouchers that let you pick stuff out of the pool, try and pick this because it's protect. It works for demons. It's like it works on Ingrid. It works on Astaroth. It works on anybody who's ever in the protect business and wants to play as a demon. Especially someone like Eleanor. Eleanor likes playing blue and she's a demon type. So it's like go ahead. Great supporter. Great all around. More answers than questions. She sucks dick for free. And of course we have Gal Lilum, introduced as well along in the same time with the same event as Saya Neo. This one is a event reward. So you have damage dealt with debuffs by 11%, maxes out 22, and you take 22% less damage from them. Nice give and take in suppress, so it gets to work with every other debuff supporter ever made. And then we have a very unique call actually, where you have a hurricane, deals damage to enemies, and for 15 seconds increases debuff and stun duration by 50%. This is really nice for niche setups. Like you want to do debuff extension for like as long as possible. This is it. This is actually kind of nice when you want to fight up against Ingrid, who likes to run around, hit really hard and really fast. So if you want to make slows. So it's like if you have like 7 debuffs on someone like Ingrid, it will make all of them last 50% longer. That's stuff like mind control, defense, attack down, speed down, stuns. It's great. This got reran. I think this is actually going to rerun later this month, so don't miss it. Please don't. It's very good. That's why it's a very good overall supporter. Let's see. Founding 3, Saya Neo, 72. Now here's Torajiro. Before she got her change, which is before she was changed, this passive right here, when performing a basic melee attack, has a 15% chance to increase the duration of one buff by 2 seconds. So it's green Witch Sue. This passive was in the passive slot. So you could put her in the sub slot and she'll be able to roll stuff like you would use this essentially for invincibility. So like characters who, have who deal tons of hits all the time. So like Nagi would like use this and just go absolutely crazy. You can make invincibility last for like minutes at a time. You wouldn't be doing a lot of damage. Like you'd be doing as much damage as you could do, but to say the least, it's like it needed to change. It was kind of busted in the first place. That's a well-deserved nerf. But what did change though, what did actually maintain the same is that increases the damage dealt by all enemies by 30%. This was an event supporter too, so you got this shit for free by just doing what you would normally do, and you get Stella, but in green. So this creates the nice combination of Summer Lydia, Torajiro, and Senjin Misaki for just straight up green usage in VR. It's just all damage, easy to use, and they're all event supporters. There's no reason not to take it. Also, who doesn't love the little cutie right there? She's like, Gah! Tora, Tora, Tora. Torajiro. Her call itself like takes a long time to come back up in the first place. Like, you do damage, the big old tiger pops up, does 880 damage, makes him groggy, and then you get a 30% speed reduction. Nice to extend, nice for debuff extension. It's a big hard speed. It's a hard speed down, but 30% for 5 seconds, bad stuff. You just use this in the sub slot. But she remains very useful, and that's the most important part. And who also got released at the same time? Why, it's Fuyutsuki Kiriri. Kiriri. See, I can't pronounce that worth a shit. Her passive is what everybody uses her for, besides the booby game over there, because it works the same way as something like what's her face, Anne Rose's red supporter, where every time something dies and effects happens, this has the best version of it, where every time an enemy dies, it increases damage against all enemies by 4 to 8% for 90 seconds at a 50% chance. Stacks up to 7 times. And you get to do more damage against the boss by 7 to 14%. This call is like okay, because it does a snare, it holds enemies in place, and it does, damage over time. You use it for this. There are several enemies in VR that have that spawn in tons and tons of ads, like Machine VR, Kanaloa, Spider Queen. Ingrid isn't very good for this. Humans. Mass Taimanin isn't very good for this either because all her ads are super strong. So you essentially put this on anybody in between waves. Perfect example is Spider Queen. The first wave spawns in 7 or 8 spiders. You'll be able to just if you roll all 50% chances, you can max out your stacks immediately. This effectively and this is when any enemy dies. So if new ads come up, bam, it'll roll for the chance and it could possibly refresh the effect. 90 seconds is longer than most runs of the entire stage for a lot of content. This is a general pool supporter, so you will eventually start getting copies of this whether you like it or not. And even at 1.5, it's still very, very useful. 28% more damage just for existing and doing something you're regularly doing, and then you do more damage to the boss. Good stuff. And then when you max this out 8%, that's 56% more damage for 90 seconds. It's like the Sora supporter, but it actually has a decay to it. Really, really good. And it's she is a very underrated support. Not underrated, but it's relatively unknown when she released. People are I don't want to say people writing her off, but it's nah, this effect's really good. That's really nice. Good on dailies, good on things that good in some hard content. Really nice. And 183. And we've been talking about her before all day today. Is the Summer Lydia Beretta increases damage of machine and human type characters by 16%. This is the second thing ever that has machine damage boosting. So it works really well for Saika, Asuka, Emily, and Shisui. That's it. So they all can get this boost. They can use it in their green setups. Emily likes it. They all like it. And of course, half the cast is fucking human, so it's everybody gets a 32% boost. The field itself is spammable, so every 30 seconds you create a magnetic field, reduces the speed of enemies in it by 40%. So it's designed for holding enemies still and just wailing on them. It's they understand what they wanted in the first place with this supporter. It's just it's just good because it's general damage and a spammable cooldown in a color that needs effectively answers. Yeah, they wanted to draw Felicia from Darkstalkers, but it was legal stuff. I would love Felicia from Darkstalkers. It's one of my favorite. She's from America, from Las Vegas, Nevada. And of course, we get to our final supporter that we're going to put on the list is Coral Phantasma. Now, obviously, this is a supporter that has come into contentious waters with how they have how it has been changed after release. So, what have you there? But that still doesn't change the fact that it's still a very good supporter. I think Mr. Crushington did the numbers, and it's like what? It goes from a 55% damage bonus increase to like 44. So it's like an Astaroth kind of nerf situation where, oh man, I'm no longer dropping nukes on everybody. I'm only dropping like heavy mortar ordinances or something. So I'm still doing insane amount of damage, just a little bit less. Because it's an assist, so that's what her whole setup is like this is a design for her green skill. But you also get the fact that it now scales to everybody. Because increased damage dealt to one enemy by 12%, increases damage dealt to enemies by 8%. So it's effectively a Stella that's split in half and has boss focus. So you get to fight the ads, you get to do more damage to them. You get a specific targeted enemy, like a boss has like all the ads are dead. You get to do even more damage to them. 24%, 16%, gotta love it. It's a backline filler that you can't get enough of. You can even use it in the main too, because it removes one buff from, I think when you max out, it's 5 enemies every 15 seconds. Guess what, guys? You know how long 15 seconds is? That's how long the Kanaloa buff is active for. And that also works for, if you time it out correctly, that works on the, it works for Lena as well. So you can make her stop hitting so freaking hard and also take off her defense boost too. And then it has the active, which is, launches notes, explode on impact, deals, 670 times 2 is 1340 damage. So then you double the damage when there's only one enemy. So 1340 times 2 is 2680. So that's one of the single most hardest hitting supporters in the game when there's only one enemy. So this is like designed for bossing. And it's really nice too because you get the big brown booby in there. Okay. Okay then. That's hurts my throat. I'm talking all this time. Okay. First, we're gonna go take an ad break. I'm gonna go to the bathroom and go get a drink. And then we're gonna go over to the tier list itself and then put it in there to show you what it's gonna look like. I'll see you in a moment. God, I hate using tier maker. It's like it's such a shitty thing to use because like their site is so weird. Runs like ass too. Alright, let's put that over here. Let's go to presentation mode. Full screen this baby. So I go mute action Taimanin. Alright, so we're gonna do this. This is effectively the entire list of supporters we've just gone over for the last like hour and a half. So it's time to put them in their proper spots. As you can see, it's not your traditional like lettered tier list. It's more or less trying to categorize them in places where they design like where they're going to be more effective. Because when I pick this list, if you guys ever saw, it's like also these are supporters that are traditionally extremely good in about every situation. If I really wanted to spend the whole going over 187 supporters, we'd be here for like 4.5 hours. Well, it took me like what, an hour and a half to explain like just these 55 supporters. So that'll take me like what's 3 times this, what's it, there's 185, so it's like taking almost like 5 hours to explain every single one. Regardless though, let's go. So we're going to start off with Homra. Homra herself obviously is the useful everywhere, minimal caveats, because who doesn't love to do more damage in general? That's just like the gold, that's like the gold standard of this. And the longest running theme in the game is if you want to win, you need to do more damage. And Homra does that in the most cheapest and cost effective way possible. So then we have Shisui. Mileage Shisui is for invincibility. It's very good. You will get to come back from the dead one time, and then you get invincibility for 16 or 18 seconds. It's a very long time. Useful in the arena, useful in there, but it's very selfish in that it's like it's only for the one character, or if you spread it around, you can use it on everybody. It's effective at 1.5. It's effective at 5.5. It's just nice all around. Then we have Fuma Amane. Miss Big Butt Butler over here, she's going to be our situational use, more requirements type of supporter, because she's only for machines. If you're fighting mixed enemies, which you almost always will in this game, she's not going to do anything for you. Anything for you in that situation. Like, that's why you take her to specifically like, oh, we're going to go fight Tempest 2, or we're going to go like LWS squad. That's why it's like she's the mainstay of LWS squad, because you're only fighting machines. It's very situational in that regard. Then we have Ticking Kaoru, Miss Unstoppable Force, and it meets the immovable object. 44% crit damage, always worth it. And then we have her massive nuke that hits twice. It's like great supporter, love her to death. She's consistently the most recommended supporter whenever you get the chooser tick at the beginning of the game, because your options aren't good, and it's, well, that's just it. She's just really good. All right, then we have Mitsuki. Mitsuki herself is specifically for like time attack and like cooldown reduction spam stuff. So it's for niche setups and slot specific. You have her in the main because she's spammable and has a low cooldown and can reduce herself. That's just it. You just use her in something like time attack so you can blow up a wave and keep moving. Because some waves will instantly spawn as soon as the other one is deleted. So it's like, alright, doesn't matter at that point. You're ain't worried about it, you just use her. Fost, same thing. Her sub effect is the critical rate booster for ranged attacks only. that's situational in the first place, but that's also half the cast. And then she's also has the call effect, which is people use her for, is the machine damage defense down by 100% for 10 seconds. Same thing with Yamune. You use her explicitly for machines, and that's it. When you're a new player starting out and you need critical rate boost for your character for like red setups, it's like she's also pretty good for that as well. You'd use the other red counterpart for that does ranged critical hit damage. I forget where she is. Tsushima Ibuki, where she does like 32% more critical hit damage on ranged attacks specifically. So it's like red for SR supporters is like the best thing you can do, and Fost just enables. Fost is the only thing that still maintains relevance in like VR from like low to high, so that's why we pick her. And then we have Major. She is tanking and supports specifically against machines. If I could split the difference on there, she doesn't even increase damage. Well, she has the call effect if you put her on the main to just whoop a single machine for like probably 4,000% damage, like one of the hardest hitting skills in the game. But that's just it. That's all she can do, is just make you take less damage or deal damage one time every 60 seconds. So it's just specifically for tanking. Mito Haruka is also one of the most... She's restricted by racials because she's only effective on humans. Most bosses in the game are classified as human. Most enemies are human. And all the way around, it's just like it's a really good supporter. You take less damage from the enemy, and you also deal almost just as much. There's nothing about it besides being an SR and having low stats. But even then, it just gets solved with enchanting. Like, it's the perfect supporter. And then we have Mercy. Mercy itself is a character who has, it's hitting the fucking monitor. Mercy herself, is designed for farming. She get more gold. You have a increased drop rate that it actually gets rolled differently. So you can still farm up and just get lots and lots of stuff and not have to worry about it. Like, she's just made for just general use. And that's why she's one of the best supporters, because everybody can use her regardless of color. She fits in anywhere because they designed her to do so, which makes her a good supporter. This is now Hebiko is going to go over to the useful everywhere and minimal caveats. Half the cast in the game is like demons, or at least a third or almost half of them are demons. So they get to, one, deal more damage just being a demon and take less damage because they are demons. And then to top it all off, she has that ridiculously good call effect that removes buffs. So there's no reason just to not, take her anywhere. Very, very good supporter. And Onigumo is going to go inside the situational use tab because she's only good against demons. Frankly, we do face a lot of demons, but that's just it. You want to solve your demon problem, you go take her. You want to solve a machine problem, you go get Yamune. You build for the situation. Now, I have a hard time picking this, but like Misaki over here is like, she has the healing and she also has the critical boosting effect, but it's only useful on bosses. Actually, we'll put her in niche setup slot specific because her she has the damage to all and she also has the critical damage boost. That's specifically if you're fighting bosses though. Like, you'll get like more general use out of the critical 3, but anything else, it's like this is like specifically for bosses. You can honestly live without her for the most part, but she's just very useful in that aspect. But how you doing there, Timeverse? We're getting down to sorting out our characters after I sat down and explained all 55 of them. Most of them are actually in this. I think there's only like 4 or 5 missing from this, but that's okay. We went over them in the first place. Spica, of course, there's not much to say about her. She has critical damage, she has critical rate, and she has invincibility. Ooh. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just very simple. You can use her everywhere. You can use her in the arena. You can use her in VR. You can do about anything with her. There's nothing wrong with There's nothing wrong with Spica. That's just it. Now, Yuno is a bit different. Her most useful situation for Yuno is obviously, one, the arena for giving invincibility and making your basics do an assload more damage, and then using her as Murasaki's best friend so she can have invincibility and hit extremely hard. Outside of that, though, she makes your critical hit rate boost, the hit rate boost stronger, but at the cost of particles. So you'll effectively lose your ultimate if you are wanting to use that, and you have to use this in the main slot. If you use it in the sub slot, you just kind of shoot yourself in the foot. So it's probably sitting between situational use and niche setups. Oh wait, that's actually perfect, because niche setup and slot specific, and it has to be slot specific because it has to be in the main or else it won't work. That's the same thing with Issei Nodoka. Issei Nodoka's number one thing is that she uses it. You use her in the main slot so you can instantly activate disarm. You use her for the disarm strategy and gold farming. That's it. This niche, that one thing though, is what makes her just sends her into the stratosphere. She got minimal use before the discovery of the debuff extension thing. And debuff extension actually works for other things too. You don't have to use disarm. You can use slow. You can stack slow. You can do other things, and it's but the disarm just makes it extremely safe. And then we'll just put the melee duo in here. Well, actually, did I put Granny Province in there? I don't think I did. Oh, there she is. I'm probably missing Nino Weaver, too. Oh, that sucks. I thought I had her. Oh, well. But these three, the ranged and melee specific damage boosters, they give each 30% when maxed out, and you can combine them both to effectively give yourself 60% more damage for doing something you're normally going to be doing. It's effectively the gold standard of do thing, get rewarded in the most raw aspect. They're brain dead simple. If you need a slot filled, if you don't have the effects or you're missing the supporter, this is the thing you take in there. Because if you know they're going to be doing this one thing a lot, they just do it. You take it all the time, and you can just patch up your damage from there. And of course, oh, I forget what her name is. I'm losing my mind. Kurachi Kato is obviously a niche setup and slot specific, because the only time her stuff is going to work, because you need her in the main slot to make her have the snare effect happen a lot more, and also she only gets the boost on snared enemies, so it has to be there in the main slot. However, when you have her in the main slot, you can pin down your enemies. You can just do circles around them. You can effectively make them do tricks on you, and you can just get away with it. You can just pound them to pieces and never have to worry again, because it lasts 4 or 5 seconds. No, it lasts 4 seconds, then it rolls again every 4.5 seconds. The lower amount of enemies you have, the more chances it's going to target the one you want. So it effectively has a chance to just constantly keep someone stun locked if you roll well. Let's see. Oh, there's Nino Weaver, the ranged and melee variants. This one is the situational use, more requirements, because the machine boost, the machines only works on 4 characters, and it's in blue. So if your characters need to, if your machine characters need to run blue in any capacity, like this is really, really, really good on Shisui because her blue build is like, it's designed for her to do as much damage as possible. So it's like that's what you want on there. This one is a useful, Nagi's a useful everywhere minimal caveat section because it only works, no, it's a situational, because this only works on suppressed characters. That's like the hard and fast rule about it. No other characters can use this unless you're like a suppress. So it's like it effectively only has like a third of the cast can only use it. So it's very situational. It's the same thing with Lilim. You have to be a protect character. Anything else, and you just you're not going to get any benefit out of it unless you're using it in the main. Lena can do the same thing as well, but it's not specifically required on like you have to be suppress or you have to be protect. You have to be a demon to use Lena. So Lena herself is like, you know, it's like 24%, 24 more damage outgoing and 24 for less received. All you have to do is be a demon. And then we're gonna have Crit Cat. Crit Cat is in the useful everywhere situation because it combines both critical rate and critical damage. I think like barely anything has that in the first place. It's weird. It's like the niche slots. Oh no, the niche setting is like. Yeah, we'll just swap these two because Shirayuki and Lena are situational use. It's like you use them as demons. I don't know, you can effectively put them in like either or area because they work on that a lot better. Like Lydia though is a very good option for niche setups and slot specific because she's there to effectively do she's damage all and critical rate boosting and just for general purposes. And then she also has the quest disable and the arena disable. So she's effectively there to one, either be a sub slot solver or a main slot impeder. But I miss Shirayuki. Shirayuki's situational because, well, actually no. She's damage all. So all you have to do is be a demon. And you just get 36% more damage and just like simply exist. Simply exist, do more damage. Same thing with Stella. Everybody knows what Stella does. You get to do 30% more damage by simply existing. You get to use it's useful everywhere. And it's in the color that loves it. And then we have Suzune, who is the obvious winner of niche setup and slot specific. Because that's situation. It's either situational or niche setups. I think I probably should have named that better. But niche setups in the fact that it's like if you're going specifically a debuff oriented build on this character or in like VR, you have you'll get to do 40% more damage because they caught a cold or something, which is great. That's how like almost all those supporters are explicitly in red. She has a good color for it, and she can have like you can run triple colors in all three debuff supporters like Suzuru and like everything like that. Really great stuff. Now Laura herself is a defining situational use character because all she does is specifically critical rate boost for humans. So we have a lot of humans, but also it's just critical rate. It doesn't do anything like increased critical damage or anything like that. She gets to be in green and she was free. So that makes it like a good filler to solve if you can't pull Crit Cat or any of the other required critical annihilation setup. And of course, White Feather is the 100 is like the poster child for niche setups, because all she's ever used for is like breaking armor, because you only need her at 1-5 and you have a 10% chance on every hit with a skill. You put it on your characters that have the most skill hits and most skill hits possible, and you pray to God that you get it off in the first place, so the most dangerous enemies can get pinned down. Actually, no, Mercy should go in here because she's a support role. That's all she is in the first place. A White Feather, it's the poster child for niche setups, and it's actually only slot specific. You can only have her in the main. Like if you're a suppressed character, you can actually get you can actually use part of her sub passives, but everybody can use the main slot boost. So you have to effectively make sure, like if you don't have like a good team behind you or like good sub supports, you just lose out on damage for the most part. Which is it's a good supporter, but it's like you need effectively like all these other guys to make use of like the opening created by White Feather. Now, Pirate Kiara is a bit different because it's like she is specifically she's damage up for demons and then heals. So that actually is like, that's half the cast and the heals. So it's useful everywhere with minimal caveats. Little Witch Sue, obviously that is for support in general. You use that for the debuff extension, and if you really want to get down to it, it's like you do more damage to humans, take less damage, and then it's the debuff extension. That's all you ever use her for, and she's just really good for that. Her favorite partner is good old Misaki Akane. Where is she? Yeah, right there, because of the niche setups. New Year's Eve Shiranui is the same thing. It's a purely support situation. Like you do more damage, you take less damage. You drop the field to make your teammates do like 48% more damage. You do the same, and you make them even slower too. So it's just there to effectively like help one shot an enemy or something. This is I forget what the Miss Snowy Assassin's name is, but she comes in there and it's like she's specifically critical range damage. So that's like it's a half of a half of a half. It's in blue though, so that means it gets a lot of great use out of like everybody, because it gives critical damage in something that doesn't have a lot of support for that in the first place. Over time, critical rate has like come up and there's been other answers to it. But at being able to crit, having a crit rate boost specifically on ranged or anything really in blue is just always nice. But it's very situational. And then we have another useful everywhere is Fuma Yukina. She's a red character who has she's a red supporter that just has, you do just more skill damage. How often are you using skills? All the time. That's just it. And then even the call effect has the ability to instantly kill even the strongest adds. So it's like, yeah, go right ahead. Show me the money, baby. Let's do this. Good supporter. And then the thing is with what is it called? New Year's Felicia. She can actually do the thing with, I want to say like you can put her in 1 for tanking and support, because when she drops the field, it's huge and it does like so much for like helping your team out. There's like no reason not to like take it in the main slot and then let someone else use it, because they'll drop it down, you can retreat back to it and like heal and regroup, so you can continue the assault or whatever. And then it only has the caveats of like, all right, it does increases skill damage, and it's actually, no, I need to check that again. I have forgotten. Because it's a cis character's skill damage by 30%. What do I remember? There it is. So it's 30% skill damage increase, and then assist type character damage dealt by 26%. So even just like using it as a sub slot, that's really, really strong. There's no reason not to use it in the first place because of that aspect. But it's like it has to be used on an assist character, and it has to be and it only increases skill damage. So if you have long skills, you'll be using skills, but it's like long skills take a while, you don't get a lot of use out of it, but it makes assist characters deal more damage. So it's very good in like multiple aspects. I'd almost say it's useful everywhere. Yeah, I'll just say minimal caveats because she gets to be up there. And then we have original Rin. Where is original Rin? Oh golly, I can't find her. I gotta remember what the effect is. So she has the caveat of, okay, now you get to have, you deal more damage. If you're a human itself, you get to deal more damage, and you take less damage from all enemies. So half the cast being human, they get to use it, but it's only restricted to humans in the first place. And then you have like damage taken from enemies by 12%. It sits in the middle of like this, like the useful everywhere and situational use, because it's like it's very good. Like there's nothing truly wrong about it, but it just sits in the middle because it's like it doesn't deal extreme. It doesn't have like extreme use like something like Shirayuki where it's like the insanely high boost, but it's like it's a good generalist position. It's a situational in the sense like you can use it as filler and be okay. Sora is another poster child for niche setups and slot specific. If the fight's going on long, you'll have permanent 50% attack boost, but that's effectively all what you use it for. Like obviously when you start climbing up the ranks in VR, everything takes like over a minute to do, so you're going to have that boost like just permanently onto your character in the first place. And it's in green too, so it gives that nice important damage buff for like the longest time. Next up we have I forget what her name is, it's like another Misaki. I don't forget what her last name is though. But her only caveat is like she's actually like one of the most perfect supporters in the game because she's explicitly designed to be perfect. So what they have here is like you do 50% more damage in VR, and you can heal yourself from more particles and HP. The only caveat is that it's only useful in VR. That's it. Frankly, it's like that's all it needs. It's useful everywhere. Well, actually no. That's like the perfect situational thing because she's only good in one area, but she's very good at it. So that's the perfect definition of situational. Arabella, though, is a useful everywhere type of thing because you're always fighting a boss at the end of the stage. Doing more damage to them is just valuable in general. That's like the long and the short of it. The SR red supporter that also increases damage dealt to bosses, that's really good too. It'll effectively go in the same place because it's cheap to run, everybody can use it, and there's like minimal restrictions. It's the same thing with Saika, because all Saika is just the green version of Yukino, but with the particle damage reclamation and the penetration boost. Like it's effectively just a limited supporter version of a general pool. They're effectively the same, and they're both very good. And Shujo Janelle will go in the situational use because she's effectively supposed to be the sequel to Tekken Koharu, but she's more specifically for ranged, ranged damage dealt up and critical damage from melee attacks. If that's not situational, I don't know what is. And then we have Cyaneo. Cyaneo, obviously, she gives great benefits to literally like half the team, to like half of the entire cast. So if you're a demon, you get bonus defense, bonus skill damage, and a hard-hitting line drive nuke, and bonus HP. It's 4 insanely great things, and the only caveat is that you have to be a demon. That's it. And of course, Lilim. Lilim is, of course, a niche setup type of character. Ugh. She's effectively she's a niche character because, one, you have to have a debuff consistently on an enemy to get any sort of benefit out of it. And in order to take less damage from the enemy, they have to have a debuff in the first place. There are obviously characters now that can have almost permanent debuffs on enemies. So it's still a setup that needs to happen. But then she also has the call effect, which extends debuffs if you need to do it. I mean, it's like that's a niche setup if I've ever heard one. And then Choir Fentanyl over there. She's obviously one of the most... she's obviously a situational for sure, because she has both answers for bossing, like she's specifically almost designed for it in the first place, but she also has answers to all enemies with like the slight boost that she can give. It's minimal at best. It almost feels like a Misaki, like wherever Misaki is in the first place. Oh, I don't have her on the first place on this. She's like Misaki Akane in the terms of like, okay, I deal more damage to enemies, but I also deal like insane critical damage to bosses. It's very specific and requires like, a certain setup to make work out. But when that setup hits, and it's like in that one specific situation, it's like the best thing ever. And Summer Lydia is going to be right there with the fantastic option of giving 32% damage to humans and machines. That's 2/3 of the entire cast. She can cover up all that stuff. There's no reason that nobody should ever take her. Oh, I took out... Torajiro would be in the same place if I had the... I don't know. This site is so weird because it's like I obviously uploaded the picture, but it didn't register for some reason. I don't know why. But Torajiro would go in useful everywhere as well, because that's what she's designed for. She's Stella, but in green. And of course, the founding 3, the 100% defining supporter of useful everywhere with minimal caveats. You can use them in any color. They boost the 3 attribute stats. They boost 4 attributes, which is critical damage, critical rate, HP, and defense. I think it boosts critical rate. I know it boosts critical damage. But either way, it boosts 4 things. 4 amazing things at any cost. You change it for 400,000 gold. You change it to whatever color you need for the setup, and you just go on your way. It doesn't care. It just works. It works on your machine at any cost. Whew. All right. And that is what I like to pick as the most commonly used supporters for, at least for what I have picked. There are obviously edge cases, like in like the maximum, but it's like there are edge cases that I did not mention here in the 55 supporters we went over, because there's 187 supporters in the game. I'm not talking about all of them, but even then, some of those other supporters have niche use and that are better than some of these in some cases. However, most of the time, people don't have them because they're limited old or just like the event has never been rerun for a long time. It's like, but these supporters right there, just like, great. Love this stuff. Even if the tier maker website didn't eat all my pictures, and we would have all 55 on here, because like the original list was like 70, which is like just a little over a third of the like a third of all supporters in the game are used, like commonly. That's the long and the short of that. Oh, all right. We're not done yet though. We've got one more thing. We're gonna go over to the quest section. We're gonna go to the event. We gotta go to Hey Long. The Hey Long and the short of it is we gotta do the bonus stage. And after that, I have got to go to the bathroom. After explaining all that, we'll go there and we'll go do the bonus stage to finish off the stream. All right, here we go. Yes, that's the one thing that they actually kind of get right in this game, is that they spread around the supporters pretty well for the most part. Like in the beginning of the game itself, they had they would just have like green would get a ton of support. It would have like the craziest things in the world behind them. They have like all this critical damage. Because I was thinking like, you know, critical damage? Let's do it. Let's go have the classic critical damage build that I've been talking endlessly about. We go get Eeynooka. We go get Fujibadashi Eeynooka. We get Miss Crit Cat. Take it off of Grandma because I already know what's coming. It's gonna be like it's a really annoying boss. And then I go get see critical rate, damage dealt. We don't need nothing else. We got the tentacle mine. We're gonna put him on the chopping block. We get the Great X Senpu. I don't need that. Roads, where we're going, we don't need roads. Because he's gonna run right over these guys. So Murasaki is suppress. Alright, let's get it started. So I hear this boss itself is like, you know, it has insanely high healing. Not to mention the boosted damage it gets from like this bonus it gets or something like that. Like it goes into phase 2. There you go. It's the classic stuff. Like I don't even have to give a fuck if they just like drops the chain because she just does like 20,000 hits all the time. Because I know if I took Murasaki to, like, you know, the final stage of this, it wouldn't be much of a challenge. I think actually... Oh, cool, she got stunned. Because I think actually the, specifically this boss has, like, critical hit rate reduction or something like that. So, because it's supposed to, like, break down these type of builds. There's something really satisfying about getting killing the entire wave with one Murasaki combo. Like, it just shows off, like, her incredible strength all at once. I just love that she comes in, like, she surfs on her little piece of paper and she's like, here I come, get ready. Oh, we weren't fast enough. Now everybody gets a defense boost. But nobody cares because it's Murasaki. Easy. I can only say it's easy because she's completely maxed out. Ooh, it's got the shiny effect on it. 218. So she's got, like, at least probably 3 million health. Let's use someone else. Let's see, traditional hard hitters. Because now the enemy's attacking, they're super strong. They're so crazy. I can't believe it. Oh, we've been talking about Miss Fancy Big Butt all day. Let's put her in. Let's put her in, coach. There's Fumi Yakina. Family ties. We get Stella. And then we get... No, she's not suppressed, she's protect. Not what? Protect. She's assist. We could use Lydia. I don't have any AoE power. That's fine. I just want to use Heat Kick because I know that it's going to hit, like, super hard. Calamity Over makes her faster. Yeah, why not? Let's use it. Duh. No, we've been talking all about that. We're gonna use stealth armor. We're gonna be Iron Man. She is a green, so we need to get damage, critical hit rate. Let's actually make sure I have correct gear equipped, because now they're gonna just hit harder. She's human, so let's get like a split in there. Alright, Saika, show us what you can do. Yeah, they were absolutely cooking with her. She looks so great. Look at that. I still messed up the input, and he was still in the death animation. I absolutely hate fighting that thing so much. Oh, too early. Asian recipes, my favorite place to go. Good. This is it's so dumb. She just comes in and is like, I'm surfing. Just playing our old CS surf servers. Nothing like a boot to the dome couldn't solve. I think this is the reduced critical rate. Yep. So this is the one where you need to bring your A game and don't fuck up. Let's do this with Grandma. Actually, let's take off those. Because I don't think Grandma herself brings a lot of critical hit rate. No, she does. She actually has really high base level stuff. Hanasaki Yozora is also one of these supporters that's never been reran for like the longest time. There's probably like VA problems that they have with this character. So it's like you can't get the critical rate of protect type characters unless you specifically go fishing in the recycler or something. You only need one copy, but it's like, man, it sucks. We're gonna go play critical hit rate in the no critical hit rate allowed area. Sengen Misaki. This is actually where Laura would like to be, because she's designed to give you just a massive critical hit rate boost, and we have the crit cat. So let's see, you got Shatter, Shadow Blink. That's actually important. We need that. Smoke Cloud. Restoration. Power Release. Cool. Critical damage. We're gonna show her we're gonna show everybody the Foxy Grandma special. Do minimal damage and then suddenly blow up someone for like 12,000 damage. Grandma once again returns to China. I hate that it makes you wait for like the animation to finish. $5 million, that's not bad. I won't lie, I'm not going to say I don't get tired of hearing wrist power release every 5 seconds. It kind of gets old. It's one of the great proponents of, okay, I kind of need to play on no sound. Because while I do love Foxy Grandma a lot, I get kind of tired of hearing that. This critical hit rate bullshit is kind of annoying me. Because I know it's gonna happen. We're gonna roll low on our during the boss fight, and it's gonna take like 30 seconds more. It is like really something only I would care about too. Go get him, Grandma. It's time to show this kid who's boss. Got him! Who the fuck are you? Here I am thinking it's like, alright, it's over, I did it. He lived. This motherfucker lived. He lived a night with the Nagi, that's to say the least. Man's bugging out. Good, that was fun. Oh my god, the event's so hard. It's like, yo, I can already tell it's annoying to say the least. That was fun though. Okay. Well, everybody, that calls it for today. I wanted to get that done. That was a nice, fun thing I wanted to do. The good old weekend project. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by. I had a really great time explaining to you guys all about the supporter system and making my little tier list about it. Granted, it's not a traditional list, but that's exactly what I wanted it to be. It's untraditional. The Diablo 2 Assassin, that's right. It does work. The Diablo 2 Assassin for sure. Gotta tell our boy Deckard Cain all about it. But thank you, everybody. Thank you for spending time with me and Foxy Grandma, so we learned all about supporters. We only went through like less than a third of the entire list, but it's that third that everybody likes to use. Don't forget to like, comment, rate, favorite, and subscribe, everybody. And as always, where is it? I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.